There's so much of the example in the boyosphere of guys not really acting like real men that I wanted to make some videos talking about how do real men act? What kind of things do they live by? What kind of principles? And how do they respond? Especially the context of this video is when you are in a dispute, a disagreement, some kind of conflict with another man, how do you handle yourself so that you come across as strong and not weak and you act like an actual masculine man? So the very first thing is not calling people names. The second I hear someone start off a conversation by throwing an insult, making fun of someone, whatever it is, I immediately lose all respect for them. And I think of them as a 5-year-old boy, because that's what 5-year-old boys do. Now, you might think that in your own echo chamber that you sound cool and that funny, but in reality, everyone else on the outside looking in thinks that you are a 5-year-old boy, especially women. Women are not going to be impressed by a guy calling names. It just comes across weak. If you have a problem with someone calling them names and making fun of them, it's going to make you appear weak. It's not really going to do much to them. But if you're really that strong, tough guy, why would you need to call someone names? Now, if you have a problem with someone's ideas, you don't like what they said, you can call it out. You can talk about that. You can say why what they're saying is wrong. That's a civil way to have a discussion. That comes across from an area of strength, whereas calling names comes from a place of weakness. The second one here is keep it personal, not public. If you got a problem with another guy, the best thing that you can do is talk to him in private. If you make something public, especially before talking to him privately, it just screams of, look at me, I need some help, back me up, guys, let me show you how cool I am. It does not come from a place of strength. It does not come from a place of genuinely wanting to help men. It comes from a place of weakness. Now, there are some times where you do need to call out someone's behavior publicly, but that's when they've already made it public. When they bring it into the public arena, then sometimes you do need to go there and you need to say something there, but it's not something that you want to do. You'd rather handle things behind closed doors. You'd rather handle things between you and that person rather than bringing it out into the open. And then again, it reverts to the first one of name calling and attacks and all those things. And even if someone name calls and attacks you, do not respond back with that. You can address their points if you want to. You can just ignore them, but name calling them back is going to make you look weak. And again, even if they're doing that, you should first try to resolve things at a personal level. Now, if that doesn't work, then the next thing to understand is to put up or shut up. What this means is that if you want to act like a real man, you have to realize that the words that you say may have physical consequences, and that when someone talks some crap to you, that you may need to challenge them and put them in a situation where they have to back up what they're saying. Now, it doesn't mean that you should incite violence or that you should be violent with people or anything like that. You don't want to harm people. It doesn't matter how tough you think you are. Wanting to harm people is not something that a man does. He wants to help people and lift people up. That should be the attitude that you always have. But there comes a point where words don't cut it and some other action is necessary, especially when people are taking advantage of your kindness, in which case you have to be willing to step up and go there, especially facing a bully. You'd probably tell a child that if a bully hits you, to hit them back. I think most of us as men recognize that we would tell our sons that. We wouldn't say go tell on them to the principal. We wouldn't say just ignore them. We would say hit them back, because we know intrinsically that being a man is stepping up and facing bullies. And so that kind of brings me to my last point, which is a real man stands by his principles. First of all, you have to have principles. You have to stand by those principles. So that means that if something is happening that you don't agree with, then you need to say something. You need to speak out about those things. You need to have some principles that you are living by and that you hold yourself and other people to. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't associate with people that don't have the same principles as you. It doesn't mean that at all. But it does mean that if someone is in gross violation of your principles, you need to speak out and or disassociate yourself with them. If you're not willing to do that, then you're going to be lumped in. Now, I've made this mistake in the past. I will admit this, because I thought that I could just remain neutral in many situations. That's not the case. What I should have done and what I have done now is that anyone that is clearly not in alignment with my principles, I cut them out. They're not going to be in my life because I don't need to. That's the key thing. You notice I don't name names in any of my videos. Very rarely. I don't know if I've ever really named names except for to say positive things. Because if I'm not going to say something good, I'm not going to say something about someone. I will talk about ideas. I will talk about general behaviors, but I'm not going to talk about people, because either these people are in line with my principles, in which case I can heap praise upon them, or they're not in line with my principles, which means that they don't matter to me. And that's just kind of how it goes. If you want to watch the video on the principles that I live by, check out the link. It should be up here. Go check it out and let me know what you think.